streets of Brooklyn, where stories grow wild, to the glow of the stage where the dream meets the child. A quiet flame, a hidden spark, drawn to the words that lit up the dark. Curtains rose and so did he, finding power in poetry. One voice, one mic, one sacred truth. Every word he spoke uncaged the youth. He saw the world try to silence the bold, but his soul was wired to break the mold.
Welcome to Born to Speak to You TV. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs, and I am so blessed, pleased, and happy to begin Season 2 of Born to Speak to You TV. This is the show with the motto, Speak Life into the moments that matter. And we have a tremendous show for you for this first episode of Season 2. And I want to just give you a little bit of background about the show. This show was created to give people a voice, people that ordinarily would not have a voice or use their voices, to get their stories out there. We do trainings, we do workshops, and you are going to be the benefactor of all of these things. Hopefully, you will learn how you can speak life into the moments that matter as well. Our guest tonight has a publishing company that offers various services for authors, including book publishings, online classes, and consulting. And my guest today is Theresa Banks. Her company is Ellacec Publishing. But before we get into all of that, we are going to be right back with another video from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. And we are back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. And for this episode tonight, this episode is called Permission to Speak, Owning Your Story in a New Season. And yes, we are in a new season. And my guest this evening is Theresa Banks. Theresa, welcome to Born to Speak to You TV. Cannot hear you.
Bye. You can't hear me?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, wonderful. I was saying thank you so much for the invite. It is a pleasure to be here on your wonderful program. I've been watching on the sidelines and I really enjoy each episode.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. You know, as I like to say, let's jump right into the pool. Let's get into the deep end, because that's where all the action happens, in the deep end. So let's go. Your company, Ellacec Publishing. I did some research, of course, and the key aspects that I came up with is the services that you offer, the platform, the website, of course, community engagement, and focus. Your company's motto is get published and get paid. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Get published and get paid. I love that. That's what I like to do, get paid. So Theresa, I want to ask you a little bit about your journey Um, what's your story? What led you to create this publishing company?
Oh, thank you so much for that question, Calvin. In the beginning, way back in the beginning, decades ago, Ellacec Publishing is 25 years old now. I wanted to start up a company and self-publish, and that is what really began my journey in the 2000. My background is in the field of IT, information technology, and I thought if I'm going to go ahead and pull a work together and have it be under some type of publishing company, it might as well be my own. And especially when you begin and you learn of what the tremendous effort it takes if you want to connect with a traditional publishing house. And so it began with me pulling together my first work. I named it Woman of Integrity. It began as another book name called Tantra's Web, but in the end, Woman of Integrity. And once I was done with that manuscript, I said, okay, I need to put it out there. And I began first the traditional publishing chase up, if you will, and then eventually started my own company, Ellacec Publishing, named after my grandparents that raised me, Ella and Cecil.
Okay. Now, was there a moment in your life when you realized that your story or someone else's needed to be told?
You know, I believe honestly that anytime a writer puts their work from pen to paper or laptop, they've typed it up, it deserves to be heard because they put in that effort, they put in that time. With all of my books, anyone that picks them up and they read them, they'll learn there's always a lesson. I'm a teacher at heart, even though my field is IT. There's always something that I'm looking to help someone with or to teach. And my first work, it was just all about my background and my upbringing. And so I believe that sharing that would be beneficial for others, that somehow they would learn from different lessons that I had picked up along the way. And so, needless to say, I believe my story was worthy to be published. And I believe that to be true again for every writer that takes that time to pull some work together. It is worthy of publication.
Absolutely. And here at Born to Speak to You TV, we believe that speaking life into the moments that matter is primary above all things. How do you believe that books do that in a powerful way? How do you believe books speak life?
I truly know that books transform us. And we see that if someone has pulled together a story and they've had that additional blessing where maybe that story will turn into a film. And we see how we become all engulfed in regards to whatever that storyline was, if it was a really good story. And so, needless to say, we have an opportunity by way of our stories. Let's say if it's a nonfiction work, we can teach, we can help others with that nonfiction work. Or if it's complete fantasy and we've made it up, we can transform a person's lives, or we can
Mm,
transform them into a whole other journey, a whole other place. Like again, we tend to see when we're going to a show and we're checking out a movie. So
that's
change, it can really change a person, hopefully for the better.
that's right. That's right. Hopefully for the better. I believe that everyone has a story. Whether they think that they are a speaker, whether they think that they are an author, you know, whatever it may be, everyone has a story. And there's somebody out there that needs to hear or read that story because your life journey can help someone else. The wisdom that you have gained can help someone else. And there's a lot of people out there that still believe that traditional publishing is the only real option to go with. Uh, so, why is self publishing a great way to publish your book today?
With self-publishing, you can get it in a place where it's exactly the way that you want it to go from start to finish. With traditional publishing back in the day, a lot of people believed it gave more legitimacy to a particular work. But if you take your time and you make sure it's well written, it's well edited, you can put that work out a whole lot faster. And you can then begin getting some royalties from that work that you put out. And so, needless to say, the key word then is control. That you have control with self publishing more so than with traditional publishing from start to finish, from the writing to the editing to how it's promoted and how it's pitched out into the market.
Wow. I want to get even deeper into this conversation to talk about control and rights and things like that. But we're going to take a little break right here and we'll be right back. This is Born to Speak to You TV, and we'll be back in 60 seconds. Hi, this is Calvin Gibbs with Born to Speak to You TV, and here's your Born to Rise tip for today. You're not stuck. You're just committed to certain patterns of behavior that in the past may have worked for you. But guess what? You've grown past those patterns of behavior. Now they're more harmful than they are helpful. And the reason that you can't move forward is because you keep applying an old formula to a new level in your life. That old formula, that is for where you were. But you've moved on to another level. And it's time to have a new formula, a new solution. So change the formula and get a different result. If you keep doing what you did when you were there, it's not going to work out. You've moved on to another level, change the formula, and step into your purpose. You were born to rise.
From the streets of Brooklyn, where stories grow wild, to the glow of the stage where the dream meets the child. A quiet flame, a hidden spark, drawn to the words that lit up the dark.
And we are back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs, and my guest today is Theresa Bank, owner of Ellacec Publishing Company. And we have been taught the title of this episode is Permission to Speak and Owning Your Story in a New Season. And we were just talking about owning your own story, and we were talking about the rights that comes with ownership, creative control, and profits. Theresa, why is that so important for authors?
I love that question, Calvin. You know, a lot of times we are very anxious to have our work out there. I kind of associate it to someone who wants to get that record deal. And they're so anxious to get the record deal that they just throw all of their ability to hold on to certain rights away. And when we are looking to connect with the traditional publishing house, it's all about selling certain rights. You always want to hold on initially to as many rights as you can. For example, just sell those first printing rights. And that way you have an ability to negotiate a higher price, hopefully, if you are lucky enough to then have that work turn into a film or have it turn into, let's say, a game, a video game, for example. And so it's important to just know, first and foremost, anytime you write something, it is already yours. You already have some protections under the law. It's important to also still, though, have it officially copyright protected, just in the event you have a legal battle down the road that you obviously can't foresee. You would be able to more easily prove, hey, by a particular date and time, I have my copyright protection. But holding on, again, just like with records, I'm probably dating myself saying records, but just like with the music industry, you want to hold on to those rights, protect your rights. And if it comes down to it, hire a literary lawyer to get on someone if they have taken up your work without any kind of permission ahead of time.
Okay, very good. That makes sense. And self-publishing, does allow authors to move at their own pace.
Mhm.
They're not under any deadlines per se, and they can stay true to their own voice, right? I know a lot of times publishers want you to change your voice or change some
Mhm.
meanings of your work, but when you self-publish, you control all of that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I remember my first work, I did have it professionally edited by someone out of New York. I know you're familiar with the New York area. I love New York for sure. And the editor changed so much that I completely, to your point, lost my voice, lost my point of view as far as the characters and the way that they were speaking. But when you're self publishing, you do have that chance to maintain that. Sometimes, sometimes there's a new thing that's come up. That new thing being AI, artificial intelligence, where a lot of writers are losing their voice and they're taking on the voice of this robotic thing that we call AI and using certain tools that are out there to, instead of doing editing, have that tool write sentences for them, write paragraphs, chapters for them. I'm in IT and I really don't prefer that in regards to writing. And later, I think authors may run into a little trouble with who then owns that right. If you and I use the same AI tool to have a voice, if you will, by way of a paragraph we're trying to write in our story, and then later we publish that, who owns that publishing right? And so that's really
That is
concerning, I think.
Yeah, that is a very good point, and I've had this discussion on my podcast, and we actually didn't come to a conclusion. Everybody had an idea or a thought. I think we're still years away from getting a true definition or a true regulation of who owns that work.
Mhm.
I'm sure it's going to have to go through the courts, and it may even just be as simple as putting somewhere on the work uh, parts of this was created by artificial
Mhm.
intelligence. Maybe
Mhm.
that would be a solution, but yeah, we will find out. We will see. Now, I want to uh, go a little bit into what holds people back from
Mhm.
doing certain things. We both are in Toastmasters, and we know people are afraid to speak, and there's overcoming fear and doubt. But what are the biggest fears that you see aspiring authors struggling with?
There's so many, to be honest. I mean, you definitely hit the nail on the head when it comes to having courage to get out there and to put your work out there. But I remember my first book or two, and sometimes even another book, somewhere in between, the first book and the last one that I published, where I wondered, how will this be received? Because sometimes people may think if you've written about a character, maybe that character is really you, or maybe that character is really someone in your family. And so I believe fear and having that courage to get your work out is a huge factor. Also, knowing the business, it is
Mm,
draining. And that's why, Calvin, I have taught more than I've written, more than I've published my own books. I've helped writers and I've helped others to get their work done because it is exhausting to truly understand how to become published. Some people think they have it because they'll write a book and they'll have their work maybe electronically put out there. But to really understand the business, especially the marketing side and the promoting side of it, I think those are the two key things that make some writers feel, I don't know if I want to take this on. The first being afraid, and the second one, not really knowing and understanding the business and spending the time to get to really know it and know what to do.
got you. So Teresa, what would you say to someone who feels or tells you that their story isn't important enough? How would you handle, or what advice would you give to that person?
I would always say to a writer that you are unique. each of us, we are so unique. No one has walked exactly in our path. And so there will always be, especially using AI, there will always be a unique tale that we will have, a unique twist that we can put on something, a unique way that we can deliver what it is that we are trying to get across to someone. And so it's always worth taking that chance and stepping out there. We never know how far our work can go. In the very beginning, it may just be something in a spiral notebook, or it might be just something in an iPad. But later, again, we could be watching it on the big screen. We never know where it may go. And so it's always worth taking that chance, just as anything is in life. It's worth taking that chance because who are we betting on? We're betting on ourselves to be successful. And so it's worth it. No one's work that's out there, I mean, they don't have anything over us that we really can't accomplish, that we really can't also do. We may need help sometimes to get
Right.
there, like an editor or some other way to get to the place that we're trying to be, which is published, but we're still worth it. We're worth it. Anyone is worth it that has a story to tell to get that out.
Absolutely. Now, this next question, I already know the answer to it because as an author myself, I've realized this about myself. My wife has published 3 books, and I've seen it in her as well. How does publishing a book often becomes a healing or transformational experience? What happens to that individual when they publish their book?
Oh wow. I've never had any children, but I know sometimes we will say that our published work, that prior to that it was like our baby, and it was in like this incubation type of a cycle, and finally it's delivered. Finally we have it, and I'll never forget my books coming to my door, and there were several boxes, maybe 2 or 3 boxes of them, and I cracked open the box, and here was I cried. Here was my book. I cried. I don't even know how long I cried, but it was a while. And it's just getting that sense of accomplishment and completion. I think that if people have ever graduated something, it can be grade school, it could be high school, it could be college, and how you felt, that sense of completion, that you had done
Mm,
something and you had reached a goal that you had set for yourself. It is almost undescribable unless you live through it, either by some other means, like I said, maybe just graduating school, but that feeling that you get that I did it. I set that
mhm.
target and I set benchmarks and I had them along the way. And even if I tripped up somewhere, I still did it and I made it. And it could be in that printed form or ebook form as well. But there, to me, there's something about getting that hardcover book or that paperback in your hand. Oh my goodness, it's an amazing feeling.
Indeed, I will definitely agree with that. And I think I enjoyed my wife's last book more. I can't say I enjoyed it more, but I was as excited as she was when we met with the publisher and she got that box of books with this past summer because we had waited like a year, more than a year, to write the book, edit the book, get it printed. There was some problems with the printer going on, and she should have got them like in April, but she finally got them in July, and she was overjoyed, and I was overjoyed. It was a very good and fulfilling feeling. I was happy for her, you know. So with your publishing company, Ellacec Publishing, how do you support authors from through this process? How would if someone says, "Okay, I want to, uh, I'm ready to write my book. I'm ready to step out and do this thing." How does your company support them from idea to finished book, or do you do that?
I love that question. From a direct publishing aspect, my company does not directly publish writers where they would become a published author. However, there are a number of different classes that I offer, anywhere from how to publish your work to how to market your work. Either an individual can register for a class directly from my business website, or you can sign up a group of people. I've taught for libraries before, I've taught for colleges before, where there are now groups of people that have registered, either themselves or individuals that they've known. And so, definitely by way of the classes. Also, sometimes writers have finished their work, it's published, but they're struggling with the marketing side. And so, in addition to
Mm.
the class on book marketing, I can create a video for you. Again, my background is IT. And so I've set up recently, believe it's been about a year, year and a half, the ability where writers can pay for a video ad to be created, and they can design it however they want. I can assist them with that. And so they get that support as well. They can also email me or reach me by way of my website at any time. It could be 3 in the morning and they send out a message saying that they need some help. As I said before, I have assisted writers more to become published than I've actually taken the time out to sit and write my own work and publish my own work, because the need to me was so great that I said, I like to write and I like to publish, but I love to teach. And so definitely I support writers in a number of different ways, and just ongoing throughout the year for sure. In addition to that, there are other ways too, other classes that I teach, like classes on Zoom, classes on PowerPoint, with those things, and they can create their own methods to market, or their own video clips or whatever to do things. And so I share things that have worked for me by way of the classes, and things that don't by way of the classes as well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. We're going to take a little break and have a word from our sponsor, and then we'll be back with this great conversation. This is Born to Speak to You TV. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs, and my guest has been outstanding, Theresa Banks. We'll be right back in 60 seconds. This is Born to Speak to You. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs, and this segment is called Straight Talk with Calvin. Let me give you some straight talk. Stop waiting to be chosen. Too many people are sitting on the sideline, wasting their talent, wasting their vision, wasting their purpose, because they're waiting for someone to give them permission, someone to give them approval or an invitation that may never come. Let's be real. So here's the truth: no one ever chose me to step into my purpose. I had to choose myself. And I'm glad that I did, because if you keep waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder and say, Calvin, now it's your time, you'll be stuck watching other people live the life that you were meant to live. Closed doors don't mean that you're not qualified. Silence doesn't mean that you're not called, and rejection doesn't mean that you're not ready. It means it's time for you to decide. So choose yourself, use your voice, use your words on paper. Take that step. That's the straight talk. And remember, you were born to rise. We'll be Hi, this is Calvin Gibbs with Born to Speak to You TV, and here's your Born to Rise tip for today. You're not stuck. You're just committed to certain patterns of behavior that in the past may have worked for you. But guess what? You've grown past those patterns of behavior. Now they're more harmful than they are helpful. And the reason that you can't move forward is because you keep applying an old formula to a new level in your life. That old formula, that is for where you were. But you've moved on to another level. And it's time to have a new formula, a new solution. So change the formula and get a different result. If you keep doing what you did when you were there, it's not going to work out. You've moved on to another level, change the formula, and step into your purpose. You were born to rise.
From the streets of Brooklyn, where stories grow wild, to the glow of the stage where the dream meets the child. A quiet flame, a hidden spark, drawn to the words that lit up the dark.
And we are back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. I'm Calvin Gibbs, and my guest today is Theresa Banks, owner. Excuse me for that. Owner of Ellacec Publishing, and we've had a great conversation about publishing your own book, getting your story out there, taking the permission to speak and owning your story in this new season. I love the beginning of a new year. All the possibilities. We were talking about this before the show, Theresa. All the things that you don't know is going to happen. All the opportunities that may come your way. Opportunities that you can make for yourself. This is a great time, I believe, for people that want to take this on to get started. If you haven't put words on paper yet, get started. I want to ask you, Theresa, about some logistical things as far as self-publishing. Is it costly? Is it more costly than using a regular publisher?
That's a great question. Years and years ago, it was very costly, to the extent I recall having friends say they were getting a second mortgage on their home. And that's why a lot of people were going the traditional publishing house route, because they said, oh, the publisher will just pick up all of the expenses and then just pay them on the back end in advance as well as royalties. But with self-publishing, you can go anywhere from the free route to paying just hundreds of dollars to be published. A lot of writers will go the free route, if you will, where they will upload an electronic version of their book and they'll sell it off of a particular platform, or they'll go the route where they print off copies of their book and they will sell them at various venues. Personally, I prefer the printed out method. I know, having worked in IT all of these different years, there are so many opportunities where our work can be stolen, our work could be hacked. And I personally, for none of my works, have delved into the ebook route. But if you go that route, just please be careful. That's what I always tell writers. Make sure that you don't just throw it onto a platform, but instead you actually do some research and find out how secure that platform is before you just upload and put your work and your manuscript out there. And so needless to say, from $0 to hundreds or thousands, depending on how many printed copies of your work that you would want, or if you're using a platform for ebook, if they charge you some type of a cost in order to use it.
Okay, great. That's great information. Now, if a person was to go with a traditional publisher, I'm sure there's different levels of that as well. Can you explain some of that to us?
Oh, absolutely. With the traditional publishing house, there are two ways to
Oh,
get to. Oh, go ahead, please.
yes, I'm sorry. I did not mean publisher. I meant printers.
Oh, with the printing company, were you asking
Yes,
how to obtain a printing company?
yes, yes, yes.
Oh, thank you for that clarification. With a printing company, absolutely do your research. I love a company that's out of Kearney, Nebraska. Some people may not want to go that route because it means then you have to pay the shipping costs. You may be able to find something that's local, but usually the printing company that you're dealing with, they will ask you to format your work in a particular way, specifically the margins, if you want it justified, if you'd like, for example, the cover to look a particular way, and then you're sending them an electronic copy of your work. And then from there, they will print it off. They'll, of course, have you sign a contract. The better companies will anyway. And within the contract, it'll have specific details, how many copies you want, for example, if you want the book on certain type of paper, or if you want it printed like in color or black and white. They'll let you know, they'll have certain guidelines for you to follow, and then they will print off the copies. They'll let you know about how many weeks it could take. Sometimes it could take an average of 1 to 2 months in order to get those books back. And then you dictate again how many copies you want. And so with the printing companies, really do some checking to find out what the costs are, if they're reputable, because there are a lot of different scams that are out there, and you don't want to be caught up in a scam.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There that due diligence is definitely necessary to the
Yes.
point that almost every transaction I do, I'm doing research to make sure that I don't get caught out there. Some of these websites, they look so real. They
Mhm,
use actual logos, things like that from the company, and they're phishing.
mhm,
There,
mhm.
and it just takes a few clicks before you get wiped out. So, very good advice. I just want to recap some of the talking points that we discussed.
Mhm.
Self-publishing allows authors to own their voice, own their message. It gives them creative freedom. There's no pressure to dilute your truth. Faster path, sometimes from idea to impact, full control over your branding, your marketing, and your pricing. Pricing is
Mhm,
important.
mhm,
Uh, and publishing becomes about purpose, not permission. Your book can serve as a tool for speaking, coaching, ministry, business, your legacy, even.
mhm.
And it's something that I'm sure you would suggest to everybody, looking to take advantage of. Can you think of someone who self-publishing may not be a good option for?
Well, I think with self-publishing, you have to be willing to follow the whole journey all the way out. And what I
Yes.
find is writers will say, I want to write a book and I'm ready. And they don't realize, sometimes they may not be the proper one to edit that work. And so you need to know what your limitations are. Sometimes I know, at least for me, I could take months, I could take a couple of years in order to finish that work to the extent that I want it to go, and under the type of way that I would like it to be presented, so that it's a viable work that someone would actually want to read, and that it would be beneficial to someone. And I've just found that there are some people that really aren't cut out for that journey, that really will, on the surface, say that they want to be an author, but you really have to be all in. You really have to be dedicated to the craft and be willing to do all that it takes to get there and not be one who gives up easy, who isn't good with organization, with timing, and with just having some kind of structure in order to get it done.
Well, Theresa, I want to thank you for great information that you've given us. And for the audience members, if they want to interact with you, I know you got some events coming up. Can you tell us about those?
Oh, absolutely. On the Ellacec Publishing website, and Ellacec spelled Ellacec, publishing.com. On the website, you'll see a number of classes. I put them out there all the time throughout the year on book publishing as well as book marketing and promoting. You can sign up for a class. I also have a YouTube channel that's called Ellacec Publishing. The third Sundays of every month, I'm live on Facebook and YouTube by way of that channel. And I'm talking about some area of publishing. Individuals can check out old copies of the videos I've done, or old recordings, I should say, of those videos. The last one was on copywriting. And so absolutely people can reach me that way. And finally, by way of the website, there's a contact us form. Fill out that form. It's really short, just asking for your name, email, and how can I help you? And it would be my pleasure. It would be my honor to assist you as best I can. You won't wear me out. Ask as many questions as you want, and it would be a pleasure to help you so that your journey won't be as hard as mine. I'll conclude by saying I had an aunt who once said to me, and this is the way she said it: you ought not want anybody to go through what you've been through. And I dedicated one of my books, Becoming a Published Author, to her. I love that phrase. We should always be willing to help others.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to the viewers out there, I have a little call to action for you. This is where you get engaged. If this conversation speaks to you, I want you to hear this very clearly. Your story matters, your voice matters, and your time is now. If you've been carrying around a book inside of you and you don't want silence to overwhelm you anymore, I'm going to ask you to connect with Theresa Banks and Ellacec Publishing to learn how self-publishing can help you turn your story into impact. Okay? And that she just gave you the website, Ellacec Publishing.com. And you can follow her on social media, Theresa Banks, and also start writing today, even if it's only a one page today. Get started. You'll be surprised how those pages start to add up. Am I right, Theresa?
You are out. That's why I'm smiling. You're absolutely right. Yes.
Absolutely right. So, yeah. And again, Theresa, I want to thank you for being a great guest. Thank you for being on Born to Speak to You TV. It's been a pleasure to have you. Hopefully, when you have your next book coming out, we can come on and have a deep discussion about that book at that time. All right.
Absolutely.
So right now, okay. Well, right now,
thank you for having me.
oh, my pleasure. Always a pleasure. Right now, we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. And we are back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs. And at Born to Speak to You TV, we believe that when you speak life into your story, you give others permission to do the same. Books don't just sit on shelves, they sit in hearts. They sit in our minds. They sit in moments when someone needs help the most. So don't wait for permission. Don't shrink your truth. Don't silence your story. Speak life into the moments that matter. I'm Calvin Gibbs. This is Born to Speak to You TV. Until next time, keep rising and keep speaking life into the moments that matter and follow us. That's our QR code on the screen right there. You can follow the rest of our uh, shows on our YouTube channel, Born to Speak to You TV. You can also like the shows, you can like the page, and subscribe. If there's something that you liked or didn't like, let me know. If there's something you'd like to see, let me know. Perhaps you have a story that you would like to come on and tell. Let me know. And I will see you at the next episode as we speak life into the moments that matter.
Of Brooklyn, where stories grow wild, to the glow of the stage where the dream meets the child. A quiet flame, a hidden spark, drawn to the words that lit up the dark. Curtains rose and so did he, finding power in poetry. One voice, one mic, one sacred truth. Every word he spoke uncaged the youth. He saw the world try to silence the bold, but his soul was wired to break the mold. Now he walks in purpose, pure and true. He was born to speak to you. He's got that rhythm in his truth, that fire in his flow. Speaking life into the moment, watch it grow. Every phrase, every beat, a breakthrough cue. Yeah, he was born to speak to you.